Well, good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock, and in order for us to keep to our tight agenda for this morning's showcase, I'm going to kick things off right now. Please note that since we're in Zoom meeting mode, we request that everyone please keep your mute buttons on to avoid any background noise. Welcome to our third and final Southern California Energy Innovation Network Showcase event. This one featuring 5 of our early stage companies that are currently pursuing pre-seed and seed capital raises. I'm Marty Turok, and I've been leading strategic programs for Cleantech San Diego since it was founded in 2007. Cleantech San Diego is a not-for-profit business association with the mission of accelerating clean technology innovation and promoting the equitable deployment of sustainable solutions for the benefit of the economy, the environment, and all members of our community. And over the last 10 plus years, the clean tech industry in San Diego has grown to over $7 billion in local economic output and about 40,000 quality jobs. And we're looking for our SCEIN startup companies to continue to jumpstart the post-COVID-19 economic growth wave across California. In the 2016 timeframe, when the CEC and the CPUC completed a study that showed a significant gap to achieving the state's 2030 greenhouse gas targets, they allocated $60 million in EPIC grant funds to create an energy innovation ecosystem, at the heart of which are 4 startup incubators supported by the $25 million CalSeed non-dilutive funding program and special projects from Guidehouse Insights. Zach Dobbin, our program manager, and I provide strategic program leadership and reporting to the CEC for our incubator that supports entrepreneurs who have breakthrough electric energy technologies in San Diego, Imperial, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. We have partnerships with all of the entities that you see on the banner in the middle of this slide, and that's how we provide a one-stop shop to our entrepreneurs with everything that they need except capital. And of course, one of our primary objectives today is to introduce our SCEIN companies to potential investors and customers. The EPIC program is the CEC's flagship grant program for driving California's transition to a sustainable, low carbon energy system for all Californians. And even with the most stringent climate and clean energy codes and policies in the United States, before COVID-19 hit, California's 5th largest economy in the world had achieved an average 3.8% GDP growth for the previous 5 years, clearly demonstrating that green growth is not only possible, but it's profitable. Having addressed climate science and climate impacts in my opening remarks for the first 2 showcase events, today, Zach and I would like to share our 3-pronged approach to supporting climate equity. First, we're encouraging and supporting our member companies in building diverse organizations. And along with our partners and TAC members, we're helping our entrepreneurs accelerate technology innovations that can be available to all Californians. And although our center of gravity is San Diego County, we recognize that all 3 of the other counties that we serve have much larger populations of underserved communities that we're trying to reach out to and make an impact. Starting at the top, looking at C-suite diversity, 21 out of our 35 current SCEIN companies have diverse members on their senior management team. And while 60% is a good start, we see no reason why this shouldn't grow to 100%. You know, sometimes those who oppose climate change complain that only the wealthy can afford solar PV and electric cars. Well, that's not always the case. And I'd like to share that with 3 SCEIN innovation examples. First, we have can cover its attic penetration insulators for any lighting cans or fans that open up to your attic. This one is a no-brainer. At $35 a piece, they should be installed or retrofit into every building that has an attic space, especially here in California, where we're mandating zero net energy buildings. And while of course these can be installed as a do-it-yourself project, many people are not comfortable going up in their attics. So this is also a great job creation opportunity in order to get to the 83 million single family homes across the US. Next, we have NeoCharge's smart splitter that enables anyone who has a 220 volt washer or dryer to just plug in a level 2 EV charger without expensive electrical upgrades. And if you stick around for Spencer Harrison's presentation at 9:40, he's going to give this showcase audience a special code to get a $100 discount off the $449 retail price. And now, thanks to Ivy Energy, It's finally time to blow up the paradigm that solar PV is only for the wealthy. While solar PV has now been deployed on 12% of single-family homes across California, it's almost non-existent on multi-unit dwellings. Ivy Energy offers their virtual grid software platform that enables the owners of multi-unit dwellings to monetize their investments in solar and share some of that savings with their tenants, now making solar be available to almost 50% of Californians who are renters. And we'll conclude this overview on our SCEIN equity strategy by taking a look at the 4-county geography that the SCEIN is responsible for, starting here in San Diego. Cleantech San Diego has been working with Groundwork San Diego dating back to 2014 when they launched Earth Lab at Millennial Tech Middle School. I've also served on Groundwork's TAC for their CEC grant for the Choice Eco Village Z&E Community Project. Jason has been involved with the San Diego Urban Sustainability Coalition since before its inception and now serves on its board. And we've also introduced the SCEIN program to the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association to make sure that the Native American communities are also aware of potential opportunities to collaborate with us. But if you look at the Cal EnviroScreen 3.0 map that is currently used to determine the 25% highest scoring census tracts that qualify as disadvantaged communities per Senate Bill 535, you can see that in San Diego, it's clearly not representative of all of our communities of concern, but the city of San Diego is working to change that. In addition, you can see that there are significantly broader areas of vulnerable communities in the other 3 counties that we serve. I'm going to turn it over to Zach, who leads our EDA grant program in the Inland Empire, to tell you how we're starting to have an impact there.
Thank you, Marty. So the Inland Empire is a massive area. It's comprised of San Bernardino and Riverside County. Actually, in fact, if it were a state, it would be as big as South Carolina. And by population, it would fall in right after Alabama. Moreover, it's a young population and a diverse population. The Inland Empire is a priority target for our equity focus. There's a high level of poverty, a low level of educational achievement, and very high anticipated population growth for the area. Clearly, we need to raise awareness and adoption of clean technologies that will help residents and businesses reduce their energy costs and improve air quality. In 2018, we received an I-6 grant to extend our SCEIN program to the Inland Empire to do just that. We currently have 4 companies from the Inland Empire in our SCEIN program: Helicoid, Kidget, SCEIN, and Intelligen, with another 4 companies in our pipeline. I'm also happy to say that we've recently welcomed the team at UC Riverside as new subcontractors on the grant to take over the efforts of our previous Inland Empire program manager. Doug Kallmeyer and Art Saleh have already done a great job of mentoring Inland Empire startups and continuing to lead the Inland Empire Energy Innovation Council, which we created. I'd also like to recognize one of our SCEIN All-Stars, Paul Francis and his company, Kidget. Paul's startup is headquartered in the heart of the Inland Empire. Kidget is a certified minority enterprise and are part of SoCal Edison's Charge Ready program. Furthermore, in 2019, they were recognized as clean energy champions. Paul has partnered with Lacey to create the first ever electric vehicle networking training program, where 1/4 of the participants have formerly been in corrections facilities. They learned how to troubleshoot and fix EV charger networks. And I'm happy to report that 1/3 of the 60 graduates became employed with clean tech companies after the completion of the program. Back to you, Marty.
Thanks, Zach. And now heading southeast to Imperial County, who would have thought that this barren desert land out by the Salton Sea is now targeted to become Lithium Valley, California? Controlled Thermal Resources, a SCEIN company that has core competency in geothermal power, has plans to integrate that with state-of-the-art lithium extraction technology to create a clean, energy-based US source of lithium for batteries. This project is estimated to create about 400 construction jobs, and when fully built out, could support about 4,000 careers and $350 million in overall earnings. So, hopefully, these opening remarks over the last 3 weeks have demonstrated how our SCEIN incubator is right in sync with the CEC and Cleantech San Diego's mission to drive innovation in sustainability for the benefit of the environment and to provide financial savings and economic growth for all Californians. So let's move into our agenda for this 3rd early stage showcase event. Each presenter is going to have 9 minutes. There'll be no time for questions immediately following the individual presentations, but after my closing remarks at 10:05, we've set out a breakout room for each presenter, and you're free to visit with any of them that you have follow-up questions for. It's now my pleasure to introduce our first presenter for today. You know, with the continued growth of distributed resources like solar and wind, accurately forecasting weather is essential to maximizing energy output while minimizing energy cost and greenhouse gas emissions. Chris Lund, Benchmark Labs co-founder and CEO, is now going to tell you about their breakthrough asset-level weather forecasting technology. Chris, it's all yours.
Thanks for the introduction, Marty, and thanks to all the participants today for taking the time. I'm Chris Lund. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Benchmark Labs. Next. And at Benchmark, we provide machine learning-based weather forecasts for a variety of verticals, agriculture, energy, and insurance sectors in particular. We do that using a patent-pending approach that reduces the operational costs for fixed access, so things like farm fields, PV installation, or a wind turbine. And by doing that particular approach we use, we're able to increase forecast accuracy by about 50% on average. Next, please. So the problem with all modern weather forecasts that most of you are familiar with is that they produce a mean forecast for a grid cell, but they don't produce forecasts for specific locations within grid cells. So these numerical models that are fairly typical in both the private and public sectors will divide the surface of the Earth into a checkerboard pattern, and that checkerboard has a variety of different resolutions. And again, you get a mean forecast then. So everybody within that checkerboard square gets the exact same forecasts. However, we know that conditions within a grid cell, they can and do vary greatly. And as a result, the forecasts are often grossly inaccurate at particular locations of interest. These forecast errors can lead to significant increase in costs, for example, over or under forecasting generation from wind and solar assets, failure to predict a frost event or a heat spike in agriculture, and many others. Next, please. So to solve this problem, we offer a patent-pending machine learning-based weather forecast for your specific asset location, excuse me. And we do that using publicly available data. And also, we have access to a variety of private sector numerical weather models that are gridded. We combine that with real-time data from your in-situ IoT sensor. And what that allows us to do is to combine those two data sets in a neural network. So every variable and location has a separate neural network. And that neural network does a sophisticated nonlinear bias correction to generate what we call an asset-specific forecast. And depending on the variable and location, we're typically seeing a 20 to 50% improvement in forecast accuracy using our approach. Next, please. So the global weather forecasting market globally is worth about $4 billion. The system we built is a global system, so we can operate anywhere there's an IoT-enabled device. The market's growing rapidly for obvious reasons. And the two primary consumers of these forecasts are folks in the energy and agriculture verticals. We've spent a lot of time over the last few months, courtesy of SCEIN and some other accelerators, looking at specific use cases. On the energy side, we're very interested in day-ahead wind speed forecasting, radiation and cloud cover forecasts for PV generation. And then, of course, fire weather forecasting has been something that's been of great interest to utilities in California. On the agricultural side, we're generating forecasts for things like frost and heat, water use demand, and of course, a lot of these basic environmental variables also drive things like pest forecasting and affect your labor scheduling. Next slide, please. So again, thanks to SCEIN as well as Plug and Play, it's been a busy few months. We've had now 12 customer engagements and pilots that we've been working on. About 70 to 80% of those are in the ag space right now. That's where a lot of our domain expertise lies kind of historically. We're particularly excited about some work that is hopefully occurring here soon with Syngenta and a number of other small consulting and ag tech startup firms in California. On the energy side, we've had conversations with PG&E and SDG&E about fire weather forecasting, and then EDF is expressed some interest in better day ahead wind forecasting. We're also interested in the insurance vertical, although we see that as a longer term play. We are currently working with Akinova, which is an insurance marketplace, and providing historical weather data so that they can price parametric insurance products more effectively. And I think the key thing to point out here is that a lot of these early customer engagements over the summer, we were working in a hindcast mode. So we'll turn the calendar back, look at what was forecast and what was observed, show the customer how the system performs. Thanks to the work of our technical team in Argentina, we just have gone live now on Amazon Web Services. The past few weeks are now generating true asset-specific forecasts for some of these pilots. Next, please. So the business model is software as a service. It's an annual subscription revenue model. Again, we are hardware agnostic. We don't manufacture hardware. We work with really any IoT-enabled device that allows us to have API access to those surface data streams that we feed into our neural networks. And our strawman pricing has initially been set at $500 per weather station. In some cases, somebody might just have a temperature sensor, and what that pricing breaks down to is essentially $100 per environmental variable that you'd like to have a forecast for per location. Next. So the weather space is quite competitive, as I think a lot of you know. We feel like we have a couple of unique advantages. The vast majority of small and large companies that are out there currently playing in the space are using these gridded numerical models again. So they're producing a mean forecast for a grid cell. We are producing these asset-specific forecasts. There are a number of small startups out there that we think are taking a similar approach, but we have the advantage that we have global forecast coverage. So again, anywhere in the world, there's an IoT-enabled device, we can generate an asset-specific forecast for that customer. Next. We have a great team. Carlos Gaitan, our CTO and co-founder and kind of the technical genius behind the approach, is on the call today. He has a background in climate and atmospheric sciences and a long history in the private sector working on similar topics. I have a background in plant sciences and atmospheric sciences and have spent the last 10 years working in the ag tech sector on things like weather station instrumentation as well as forecasting. Next, please. So we're currently marketing a $1.5 million seed round of financing that will provide a 2-year runway. We're interested in making a couple of additional hires. Right now, the team is quite small. It's Carlos and myself, as well as about a half a dozen engineers in Argentina. We'd like to add an ag business development position, an energy business development position, a full-time employee in marketing. And then, of course, we would like to maintain our great team of contract engineers, Ken Aliti, in Argentina. And the goal by the end of 2022 is to be serving these asset-specific forecasts for 50,000 sensors, generating $5 million in annual recurring revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That's fantastic. And you even came in a couple minutes early, and we have a backup plan for that. And Zach, if you don't mind, I just want to interject. You know, we've talked about the CEC's EPIC grant program. As I mentioned, it's their premier program. And I just want to put that in perspective for you. You know, our incubator is funded with $5 million for 5 years, but the EPIC program actually allocates $130 million per year in grants to entrepreneurs, researchers, communities, and innovators. And over its 6 years, it's so far granted $844 million to 384 projects, and 34 EPIC funded technologies have been commercialized. I mean, that's how we've developed microgrids. That's how we've developed energy storage and all those different applications. So it's really working. Those programs have galvanized another $2.2 billion in private investment and follow-on funding. And you're going to see in our closing remarks that we've certainly helped and contributed there. And I'm also pleased to announce that in October, the Public Utilities Commission reauthorized the CEC's EPIC program for another 10 years with $1.3 billion. So we've got state support to continue moving forward. So very exciting. We appreciate what EPIC's doing for us, and you can see it is achieving its statewide goals. I'd now like to introduce our next guest presenter. Having worked in the engineering plastics industry in the 80s and 90s, I know firsthand the excitement of introducing new raw materials that can revolutionize products and markets. Helicoid Industries is about to revolutionize the composites industry with their patented architecture innovation. And Chad Wasilenkoff, their CEO, is going to tell you where they're targeting their beachhead market in the energy industry. So Chad, please take it away.
Great, thanks, Marty. So as mentioned, I'm Chad Wasilenkoff, founder and CEO of Helicoid Industries. We have patented innovative technology to improve the overall composite performance. Next. So if you look at the global composite industry, it's currently over $90 billion and expected to grow to $160 billion by 2027. Some of the primary success drivers behind that kind of growth and success are improved performance and reduced weight, which allows for energy efficiency in things like wind turbines, electric vehicles, and other uses. Some of the primary challenges are cost and recyclability. As an example, if somebody wants a cheaper car bumper, they'll go with plastic. But if they want the performance enhancement and the weight reduction, they're willing to pay additional for the benefits of composites. Our Helicoid technology will improve all of these, both the success drivers, as well as alleviate some of the challenges. Next. So looking at our technology, and again, it is patented, we'll make all composites lighter, stronger, more impact resistant, more durable. We'll make them more sustainably and at an overall lower production cost. Thanks. So the inspiration behind our technology is a mantis shrimp. So it is a biomimicry type of technology. So this shrimp evolved over hundreds of millions of years to become highly efficient and incredibly tough. It's equipped with a hammer-like club that performs and, more importantly, survives these rapid underwater attacks. It's the fastest organism movement on the planet. So these clubs go faster than a .22 caliber bullet. It pulverizes its prey, which are also known to be hard-shelled organisms. And it's the internal structure that provides us incredible protection. So our technology has now emulated this efficient architecture. Thanks. So we've taken it from the shrimp originally and now to a product, and we've emulated nature. So from the image there, you can see microscopically, the fibers rotate. So all this research has occurred with over 70 different researchers at 16 universities over the last 14 years. During that research, they've also identified 50 other organisms that also have this helicoid architecture and gives significant performance characteristics. So to date, over 12 million has been invested, and now patenting this technology, we have the exclusive license from UCR and the Regents here in California to commercialize this technology. Thanks. So if we look at our architecture, again, it's not the material. So our helicoid is not a specific material, it's the architecture or the structure behind it, as you can see in the image here. So we take unidirectional material, and then the next layer is shift on a slight angle of rotation. It doesn't matter left or right. And then you just keep going on that angle of rotation. So the general physics behind it, you can imagine if two fibers are crossed, there's a very small surface area. So if there's an impact, whether it's from rain, hail, a bullet strike, a bird strike on a wind turbine, there's not much surface area to be transferred from one layer to the next. By having just this slight angle of rotation, there's a much larger surface area, so that energy is transferred to the next level, and the next level, and it dissipates much further, allowing for significant performance improvements. Next. So here's just some of the benefits that just changing the material architecture can provide. So these numbers are compared against the world leading architecture, which is used in the aerospace industry, where they too take unidirectional material or layers. They go 0 degrees, then they go 45 left, 45 right, and then 90 degrees. Comparing against our helicoid architecture with the same material, the same resin, the same manufacturing process, and it doesn't matter if it's carbon fiber, Kevlar, or fiberglass, it gets significant performance improvements. So we can delay catastrophic failure by 74%, impact strength by 50%, load bearing, which obviously is very important in numerous industries, by 92%, transverse load 73%. And then it's this 100% in-plane surface delamination. Again, as I talked about before, this is that higher energy dissipation, which results and helps with a lot of these improvements. Even after an impact, we have 20% residual strength, and we have more than 50% through thickness damage. So if there is an incident on an airplane, a wind turbine, or a car bumper, the damage is typically about 50% less, assuming you're using the same amount of material. Next. Looking at our business model, we're going two prongs. One, we're looking to license to certain product and material manufacturers. So in the aerospace industry and the wind turbine industry, they already have all their manufacturing facilities, abilities to prototype and test. So we would just license our technology to them. But in certain other industries where they don't have the labs and they're not interested in doing all that baseline research to work with carbon fiber, as an example, with the Helicoid architecture, we're working with global leading material suppliers to provide rolls of, as an example, fiberglass or carbon fiber with the Helicoid inside. So the advantages are we get faster and much more diversified revenues. We get to collaborate with these industry leaders rather than trying to compete with them. We get to target numerous industries simultaneously, which offers great diversification. This also avoids multiple manufacturing facilities. There's tens of thousands of products where our technology can show significant improvements. So again, we don't want to have to try to build all those facilities, which would be capital intensive. And there is an overall reduction in the cost to produce. So that, as an example, using carbon fiber, the biggest input cost is those fibers themselves. So if the end customer is looking for a product that doesn't need better performance, they can use half the amount of that very expensive raw material and save money on their own, as well as still pay us an attractive fee. Looking at our patent portfolio, again, the patent is fully granted to the University of Riverside and the Regents, and we have the commercialization rights for that. And we've since filed numerous other additional patents, now including various manufacturing processes. Next. So our beachhead or short-term markets, obviously we're looking for areas where we can have faster penetration, quicker and less expensive prototyping, because most of these customers will want to prototype before implementing our technology, and less regulatory hurdles. So we're starting with wind turbine blades, then the automobile industry, specifically in electric vehicles and Formula One, and numerous sporting goods. And just these industries, in terms of their composite use, by 2025 is expected to be over $50 billion. Next. So just wind turbine blades, we're working on a $300,000 Cal test bed grant where we can manufacture leading edge protection for wind turbine blades, thus improving the overall electricity production for the life of those blades. Next. On electric vehicles, we're manufacturing a full carbon fiber chassis, which will also embed and house the prototype or the electric vehicle batteries. That'll be completed early to mid next year. Next. Next. Oh, there. Sporting goods. We're working with the #2 hockey stick manufacturer in the company. We've demonstrated over 20% improvement so far. We're working with golf clubs, baseball bats, and shafts. Looking at the team, again, I'm the CEO. I've built and grown over 20 companies. I have 1 unicorn to my name. We've got a spectacular management team behind us. On the next slide, please. Doug McCarville was 35 years at Boeing. He actually did our due diligence and now is our Director and Chief Technology Officer. In the bottom right, Pascal Scaramazino, head worldwide for DuPont in global innovation. He resigned August 1st and joined us and is now running our defense division. Next slide. Looking at our financial projections, you'll see on the expenditure side, we're basically fully loaded now. We've got the team in place and are starting to drive sales. Again, we just launched this company this year, and revenues start to pick up next year, primarily in sporting goods, and then after that in wind turbine blades and soft armor. About 1/3 of our use of proceeds goes to the senior management team, about 1/3 to sales and marketing with conferences and things like that, and about 1/3 to prototyping. We also think we're well positioned to be taken over by a major such as a 3M or DuPont who like to adopt technologies and roll them out, or ultimately within 5 years, we could take the company public. I have taken more than a dozen companies public on the various exchanges around the world. Next. So just some of the key takeaways. Again, we can make any and all composites lighter, stronger, more impact resistant, more durable, more sustainably, and at an overall lower production cost. We're looking to be disruptive in a very large industry. And unlike a lot of other startups, we now have the entire team in place to implement this success. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Exciting story. Again, materials that can go across multiple verticals, very exciting opportunities for Helicoid. Thank you. Let's move right along to our next presenting company, Icarus RT. Icarus RT is a 2019 CalSeed grantee. They're an awardee participating in this year's NREL Game Changer program. They're a selectee for this year's Berkeley Haas Cleantech to Market program and one of 33 companies selected for Qualcomm Small Business Accelerator program. So what's all the buzz about? Well, CEO Mark Anderson and the team have developed a patented heat transfer system that enables solar panels to operate at lower temperatures and higher efficiency while capturing that extracted heat as thermal storage, which can further offset natural gas usage. So Mark, please tell us about this exciting breakthrough innovation.
Okay, thank you, Marty. Hello, my name is Mark Anderson, founder and CEO of Icarus, and I'm proud to introduce you to Icarus's novel Quartet technology. Thank you for participating today, and thank you to Cleantech for hosting. Our Quartet system extracts and collects waste heat from PV panels and stores the heat in a thermal battery for cogeneration to make power and or hot water on demand, like after sunset. And we can do this for 50% of the cost of PV systems with lithium-ion storage. How? Well, one key point is that we increase PV output by cooling the panels while we charge our thermal battery, yet traditional systems consume PV output to charge the batteries. Also, we include hot water as a byproduct, and we'll get back to that later. But did you know that according to the World Economic Forum, 70,000 PV panels are being installed every hour around the globe? Next. However, PV generation does not match demand very well, especially where peak electric rates extend well past sunset into evening, like here in Southern California. And also, PV panels are not very efficient. In fact, today's panels are at most 21% efficient at converting solar energy into electric power. To make that worse, as the panels heat up daily, their performance drops even further. The following video shows how Icarus's Quartet system overcomes these shortcomings of today's solar panels. Extracting and storing heat, then converting heat into hot water and power. Icarus specially designed heat extractors to snap on the back of the PV panels. Working fluid collects heat and cools the entire surface of each panel. Next, the fluid travels through evacuated tube solar collectors to collect additional heat. And finally, transfers heat energy from the fluid to the Icarus thermal battery. Cool condensed fluid travels back through the system in a continuous loop, cooling the panels to improve power output while storing heat to make power after sunset. Icarus charges the thermal battery while improving PV output, not consuming it like traditional battery systems do. Whenever needed, the proprietary control system turns on the organic ranking cycle to vaporize and pressurize the fluid, which drives a turbine generator and makes electric power. Depending on the customer application, the Icarus cogeneration system can send hot water for use in commercial buildings, such as hospitals, hotels, or manufacturers. This substantially reduces the use of fossil fuel needed to heat hot water, and therefore reduces carbon emissions, helping to meet new, aggressive, renewable portfolio standards. Next. So our proprietary monitoring system shows, actually there's 3 graphs here. Next. The heat extraction already cools PV panels. Ours does nearly 25 degrees C, resulting in a 13% power output increase. And really, we're just getting started. Next. And our thermal storage decay testing shows us that there's only a very slight temperature degradation, even over a 3-day weekend. In other words, the amount of heat that we lose in our storage tank. Next. And then our hot water load testing proves that we can provide consistent fluid temperatures, which are required by our customers. Next slide. Now let me explain Quartet's huge impacts. Financially, we improve the ROI of solar systems, which justifies the case for commercial business owners and increases solar deployment. And as far as sustainability, Quartet will accelerate the renewable portfolio standards and save nearly 7,000 metric tons of CO2 per 110 megawatts of our system installed, removing 57,000 metric tons of CO2 over our 5-year plan. And all of that leads to cleaner air and cleaner living, better jobs and better wages, resulting in a higher quality of life, particularly in the high density disadvantaged communities where our impact will be the greatest. Next, the solar market is of course massive. In fact, our projected share of the market is $400 million, and that's not including existing PV installations, which we can retrofit. And of course, we have competitors. Some cool solar panels to increase performance. Others are focused more on the many different types of storage technologies. And still others are using solar thermal to generate hot water. Now, many have tried and failed at a hybrid PVT system similar to Icarus. But we've spent 4 years developing our proprietary technology to solve the same problem. And the Quartet system is our first product to include this technology, and it's ready to launch. Extensive prior art and patent searching has shown us that no one else is doing all 3 of these things in one technology or converting stored heat extracted from PV panels into electric power. And lithium-ion battery costs have dropped 90% in the last 10 years since 2010. Yet that cost is still too high for commercial business owners. Quartet will lower the levelized cost of electricity by 50% compared to similar sized PV systems with lithium-ion batteries. Next. And we've developed great relationships with corporate and industry sponsors. Our most laudable awards include the 2019 CalSeed Concept Award, the 2020 Shell Game Changer powered by NREL, and the 2020 Berkeley Haas Cleantech to Market program. The most recent is the Qualcomm Small Business Accelerator. Some provide non-dilutive funds, others provide in-kind services, but they all provide mentorship, sponsorship, and strategic partnerships, which we've already reaped great benefits from, like working closely weekly with NREL. And by the way, we are 6 out of 12 finalists in the CalSeed Prototype Award, a $450,000 grant to build your full-scale prototype. Next month, we'll begin working at the Imperial Valley Proof of Concept Center on a 25 kilowatt grid-tied commercial beta prototype. SDSU will offtake that power, and also the engineering school will provide third-party validation. Funds from our private offering will be used to obtain UL certification, a complete code and regulatory review, and to design and build the next commercial beta project. Throughout 2021, we'll be installing, testing, and refining grid-tied commercial beta projects. Next. Our team is led by me. I've worked in the power industry for 40 years. CTO Ron Pitt has been in the industry for 30 years. Both of us are engineering entrepreneurs and prior CEOs with patents issued and pending. Gina McNamara, our acting CFO, has 20 years as a CFO or a controller. Catherine Lutz, our operations manager, just joined us as an operations and logistics specialist out of the Marine Corps through the Hiring Our Heroes Solar Ready Vets program. And Jay Franklin, our head of BD, took his company from $2 million to $20 million. Aside from the leadership and advisory board of industry and startup experts, suffice it to say that our entire young team is talented and passionate about Icarus and the industry. Next. Our business model and financial projections are based on licensing to contractors who will sell and install Quartet. Icarus's revenue is based on fees determined by the capacity installed in terms of dollars per kilowatt for power, dollars per kilowatt hour for storage, and dollars per therm for hot water. These multiple streams of revenue, plus of course our funding, will allow us to scale to meet these financial projections. So by 2025, we anticipate having installed over 900 megawatts of Quartet technology, which will generate $400 million in revenue in that year. And by the way, we've already raised over $850,000, about half and half, through investors and grants. And we just issued a $750,000 private offering, and we're open to convertible or safe notes. Our exit strategy is via acquisition in about 5 years in this super hot market. Next. And I call our team the greatest team in clean tech. The team is creating Icarus's novel technology, producing results already beyond our expectations. And we're excited to show you the Quartet technology in a live, in-person, or virtual demo. Thank you. I'll be glad to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mark. Another great presentation, tremendous exciting progress, and tremendous partnerships you've built across the whole industry base.
Thank you.
Zach, I see we're about a minute behind, so do you have an exciting climate clipping you'd like to share before we go to the next presentation? Whoops.
Oh,
well,
sorry, I was muted.
Sorry.
Okay, so in 2019, the total new investment in renewable energy amounted to approximately $302 billion worldwide.
Fantastic, and continuing to grow. And I've got another bulletin for our next break to give you an idea where some more may come from that. But moving right along, I introduced you to NeoCharge's smart splitter for level 2 EV charging in my opening remarks. So now let me introduce you to their CEO, Spencer Harrison, to tell you about their plans to scale the business and your opportunity to get a $100 discount. Spencer.
We're on the brink of a massive push to electrification. It's happening now, and it's essential for reducing our carbon footprint. Next. Problem is, there's massive friction around the installation needed for home electrification. Retrofitting homes with electric appliances and EV charging requires multi-$1,000 installations, such as electrical panel upgrades, permits, and transformer upgrades. On top of this, home renters don't own their homes, so they don't have the option to retrofit their home for electrification and EV charging. Now, this poses a major barrier to home electrification. Next. We've developed and deployed a simple smart splitter that unlocks the benefits of home electrification by eliminating expensive panel upgrades that are needed to electrify homes. Our smart splitters allow you to share existing 220-volt outlets in the home. What this means is homeowners and renters can easily share any 220-volt outlet to power 2 appliances, an appliance in an electric car, or even 2 electric cars. Our smart splitters are currently deployed, UL safety certified, and all of our devices are connected with Wi-Fi. Next. What's awesome is we're seeing massive benefits from our customers, with savings of $4,000 on 220-volt installations and panel upgrades. And with an install time of fewer than 3 minutes, it really is as easy as plugging in your phone. There's no permits or rewiring needed. Next. Now, there are multiple different use cases that I'd like to point out here. There's the dual car use case where you can share 2 electric cars with 1 outlet. The appliance plus electric car use case where you can share an appliance and an electric car. So this includes dryers, water heaters, electric space heaters, and even heat pumps. And then there's the dual appliance use case where you can share 2 appliances with 1 outlet. And there even is a portable use case for our smart splitters. Next. Now, in terms of compatibility, our smart splitters currently work with all electric cars, electric appliances, and electric car chargers. So this gives us really a huge opportunity to serve many different use cases. Next slide, please. As we all know, the EV market is taking off right now. I'm sure many of you have seen the stock market, especially Tesla stocks. Right now, we're really initially laser focused on the home EV charging market, which is almost a $500 million market today, and it's rapidly growing. Now, on top of this, with billions of dollars being poured into home electrification by utilities, we estimate our market to be about a $5.8 billion total available market today. Next slide, please. Now, as for our partners, we're deploying our smart splitters directly online, as well as through many of the top companies in our industry. Companies we're working with include EV charging companies, electricians, utility companies, and even auto OEMs. Now, each of these channels are connected to homeowners and renters in one way or another, and they're looking to provide an easy and affordable installation for electric vehicle charging and appliances. Now, I'd like to lay out a few of our partnerships just to give you a better sense of the massive opportunity we have here. Next. First, I'd like to start with electrician networks. For example, one is Qmerit, which is an international electrician network that connects EV drivers with the best price electrician in the area. So they're partnered with companies like GM, BMW, Electrify America, and many other top EV charging companies. So when someone goes to a dealership and gets a car, the dealership refers them to the Qmerit charging network to get charging installed. So Qmerit's goal is to give the customer on their software platform the most affordable installation available. And that's where we come in. Next. We're now beginning to work with one of their top electrician installers in the nation. Next slide, please. Their owner expressed how vital our product is for his customers. Now, he has thousands of customers that he's already installed one outlet for EV charging, and now his customers are getting a second electric car. The problem is it will cost about $7,000 on average to put in another panel for a second EV charger. So he expressed how glad he is that we have a product that will be able to solve this problem for many of his customers. Right now, Matt's company in SoCal does about 100 EV charger installations a week. And even if our smart splitters were installed on just 1/4 of his installs, this one electrician company alone would mean over thousand smart splitters a year sold for us, amounting to over $300,000 in revenue per year. Now remember, this is just one electrician network or one electrician company of the large nationwide network that Qmerit has. Next. Now there's also EV charging companies. Our smart splitters are complementary to EV charging companies as well. These EV charging companies want to reduce as many barriers for installation of their customers as possible so they can sell more EV chargers. Now we enable a low cost and easy installation for their customers, which is perfect for bundling our products together. Now just one EV charging company could also be thousands of smart splitters a year for us. Next, please. We're also working with utilities. We're currently working with one utility, Portland General Electric. They're doing a pilot with their employees, so to electrify homes with electric water heaters and EV charging. Next slide, please. We're also in discussions. Oh, I guess it skipped that slide. I think you might have skipped one. Oh, it's okay. Our smart splitter's value doesn't stop there. With the smart splitter having control over the largest electricity loads in the home, we have control over a significant amount of power. Next slide, please. I'll go back one. Now, we've been funded by the state of California to build a software platform for smart splitters that enables remote energy monitoring, promotes cleaner energy usage, and saves homeowners, renters, and utilities money. This unlocks multiple different revenue streams for us. Next. Now, there are a few other options out there, although they're one-off solutions being built in garages and don't provide the safety and smart connectivity that we provide. We're first to market with an all-in-one solution that provides smart connectivity, safety, which is crucial to be able to sell B2B, ease of use, portability, scalable manufacturing, and customer support. Next. We really are the right team to do it as well, with extensive experience in EV charging, software, manufacturing, and sales. We have the right team that's ready to take this to market. All in all, we have a well-rounded team that's driven to succeed. Next. In our last round, we were able to complete all the safety certifications required to be able to take our product to market. We finished our hardware, built relationships with many partners, and we set up all of our manufacturing processes. We oversubscribed our bridge round, and we've opened up our seed round to enable us to scale up our manufacturing and software plans. Next. Now, I appreciate all of your time, and I would like to point out that for a limited time, we're offering $100 off our smart splitters if you use the code SCEIN at checkout. Thank you all for your time, and I'm looking forward to chatting in the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Oh, Marty, I think you're muted there.
Sorry about that. Spencer, excellent presentation. And obviously, I think everybody can see how a product like yours is really going to accelerate transportation electrification across all markets, all communities. I'm going to slip in one more breaking news tidbit before our final presentation. Don't know if everybody saw this week, because with very little fanfare other than a lengthy Instagram post, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos pledged $791 million in donations from his $10 billion Bezos Earth Fund to fund scientists, nonprofits, and others that have made it their life's work to fight climate change. So 16 nonprofits dedicated to inspiring climate action will receive these grants. Among them, the Environmental Defense Fund, Natural Resources Defense Council, the Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, and World Resources Institute. Those 5 nonprofits are each going to be receiving $100 million. In at least one case, I think that was equal to like 30% of what their annual budget is. So clearly we're seeing tremendous activity. The whole interest in environment, social, and governments is I think growing across the country, growing across the world, and obviously all of that bodes well for climate change and innovation in sustainability. So with that, we'll move on to our final presentation for today's program. Paranetics. Yeah, when Paranetics initially submitted the patent claims for a tripolar magnet with the South Pole sandwiched between 2 North Poles on the end caps, it was actually rejected by the patent board as not being possible. They've since presented follow-up data, and that patent has now been issued. And Larry Stambaugh, Paranetics co-founder and CEO, is going to tell you how this is going to revolutionize the electric motor market. So Larry, it's all yours.
Thank you, Marty, and thank all of you for taking time to hear the story. Next. The fields that Marty just described are illustrated on the bottom left, where we developed a device that projects a north field on 2 sides with a south between it. And the device that does that is illustrated on the right, where we put magnets around in a circle near each other at a slant and a slit in that device so we can pass a regular magnet between those 2. This particular new energy fields is going to significantly elevate energy and power yields in multiple applications. Next. And we're starting with the rapidly growing electric vehicle and aerospace, electric drone and airplane markets, where we can radically bring in new kinds of technologies to develop those. We did, as Marty said, we're proud to say the US and the Japanese patents were just allowed, and we needed that. The technology also will get used because we can float magnets at that point where north and south come together in other applications I'll describe. The motor markets by themselves are huge. They're $200 billion and growing rapidly because of the worldwide urge to bring more electric vehicles into the market. Our model is to license our technology to manufacturers. We may keep certain markets ourselves, and we're currently seeking a $1.5 million convertible debt financing to complete our MVP prototype for vehicles and our MVP prototype for aerospace. Next slide. The inventor of this, Tom Daniel, and I both have run companies, raised capital, built teams, and launched products. Next slide. We're using contract engineers, notably Eric Norling, who's the president of Engage Engineering, and has helped us with our CAD/CAM, our manufacturing and building of our first prototypes. Mike Hinkleman's a legend in the aerospace field and has been working closely with us on our drone motors and fan designs, and has contributed dramatically. And unfortunately and sadly, Mike just passed away, but he's brought us a long ways along in that field. Next slide. So let's go, next slide, into the motors. On the left is illustrated how motors have been built since the 1800s when Nikola Tesla made the first one. What you see on the left there is electromagnets around the outside of a rotor magnet in the center. And like all motors, what's done is those poles are changed so that the south attracts to the north and it starts to spin as those poles are alternated. What you don't know about motors is only the inside of the electromagnet is used. The outside, while powered, is not used. And that's not true with the Paranetic magnetic fields. Because we have 2 opposing north fields, when a regular magnet's between them, it's being repelled north to north and simultaneously attracted south to north in those fields for the first time ever, using 100% of the magnetic power to build a motor. And that improves efficiency, torque, and flattens the power curve. Next slide. On the right here, you see one of our prototypes, and I'm going to play it in a minute. You'll see the Paranetic device is spinning around the electromagnets in the center. Go ahead and hit that. This is running at about 1300 RPM on about 40 watts for about the same as your light in your refrigerator, and creates tremendous torque, very good efficiency, and has led to our next design, next slide, which is instead of having the electromagnets or the ParaNetic device spinning, they will become electromagnets and they will be stationary. And what will spin now will be permanent magnets on a plate in the inside around an axle. That design significantly improves the efficiency and much of what we've learned, and leads us into another design that I'll talk about in aerospace. Next slide. So we've tested this against an induction motor, and even the prototype 3, which doesn't have a lot of the upgrades and efficiencies that we now know we can provide, was equivalent to the induction motor. So we're very excited about the future here. Next slide. Next slide. So one of the radical uses of these magnetic fields is to build a drone motor, an electric airplane motor with nothing but fan blades in the center and a motor around the outside. And that is a very big change with anything else that's been seen today. Next slide. The way we're able to do that is put fan blades inside of a housing, put permanent magnets around the outside of that, and then put that all inside of a cowling with thrust bearings so that the inside can spin, and putting ParaNetic devices attached to the outside cowling so that the fan blade and the permanent magnet spin inside of that. We've simulated that with our aerospace engineer to show that we improve thrust at least 50% over anything known today. This will become the default motor for aerospace of the future. Next slide. It'll look pretty much like an engine on a plane today. And in the quadcopter example for vertical takeoff and landing, it'll look like the top picture. It can rotate then for forward motion, and thrust is one of the biggest issues in these engines today, and what the aerospace is looking for. Next slide. Next slide. The markets are huge here. There really have not been any improvements in electric motors since the 1800s other than materials. So these are game changers, and we will be working with a lot of manufacturers to bring these forward. Next slide. These are some examples of the planes that are starting to be flown. We have our first air taxi in Canada this year. You're seeing drones now being used by Amazon, UPS, FedEx, all of which need more thrust to be able to carry bigger loads, and we're the solution for that. Next slide. Next slide. I mentioned to you that we can float magnets at the places where the north and south come together, something that's never been seen before. And we put a piezoelectric material, next slide, between those two, and any pressure on one of those outside magnets causes that piezoelectric material to give an electric signal, thereby causing a signal for the most sensitive sensor we know today. We can use this same floating magnet design for speakers, transducers, and many other applications. Next slide. The transducer and speaker will look something like this with the magnets around the inside without the slot. Next slide. Our business model, as I said, is to work with manufacturers to use this unique design and these unique magnetic fields for electric vehicles and for aerospace applications. Our milestones and royalties will be taken from those manufacturers, and we may choose to keep certain markets ourselves. Next slide. We used our initial funds to build our first 3 prototypes, filed our patents, and started talking with multinationals about this invention. Our funds today will complete our 2 MVP motor prototypes to begin commercialization discussions with industry. Next slide. So we expect to be cash flow positive in under 30 months. We expect to have revenue of over $15 million by 3rd year. And you all can imagine the value of the company based on the size of the markets that we're addressing here. Next slide. So in addition to the electric motors, we planned over the next 10 years of developing this technology, because there's so many applications, to use it in transducers, speakers, linear accelerators, springs, sensors, brakes, bearings. There's many, many applications of the floating magnets and the ability to use 100% of the magnetic fields that we will continue to develop. Next slide. So I'll be delighted in the breakout system to talk to you about the future of electric motors, especially in the aerospace field. We're very excited about that, and many people like NASA, Rolls-Royce, Siemens, et cetera, are starting to talk to us about this breakthrough in magnetics and the radical electrofan design. So thank you for listening, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the breakout.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you to all of our presenters today for joining us and giving great updates on the exciting innovations that they're bringing to market. One footnote before I start the closing comments, for those of you who may have seen the chat, a footnote to the breaking news that I just gave is that Jason Anderson noted that San Diego Salk Institute was also a $30 million winner from those Bezos grants. So again, something hitting here a little bit closer to home. Now moving on to the closing comments. I hope that you all got an appreciation for the breadth of new technologies that our SCEIN companies are bringing to market to help residential, commercial, and industrial ratepayers reduce their energy usage, reduce their utility costs, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve grid resiliency, and to create our next wave of economic development and job growth. Today's presenting companies offer products and services spanning 4 of our 5 priority electric energy technologies that address energy efficiency, renewables generation, transportation electrification, and building decarbonization, 100% in alignment with the state's policy and incentives. So in closing out today's session, I thought it would be informative to show you the impact that our SCEIN incubator has had so far by sharing our key metric slides as of our 4th anniversary, which took place in mid-July. Clearly, our biggest individual member company highlights to date have been eMotorworks being acquired by NLX, CleanSpark going public on the NASDAQ exchange, but we actually have breaking news this week that Nuvve, global leader in vehicle-to-grid technology, has announced a merger with a SPAC company listed on the NASDAQ exchange, which will take them public and provide the capital to enable them to accelerate scaling globally. So congratulations to Gregory Palan and the Nuvve team. In terms of employment, our 34 companies in mid-July employed 268 people, which was actually an increase of 8% even during this year's challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in terms of diversity, 24% of our companies have women in the C-suite, 33% minorities in their C-suite, and 12% have veterans. In this pie chart, the lower left aqua hemisphere shows that our SCEIN companies had raised a combined $76.9 million in capital prior to becoming members and have since raised an additional $74.5 million in follow-on capital, essentially doubling their capital raised. And with total expenditures of just $3.4 million by all 9 SCEIN partner organizations through 4 years of operations, that represents a greater than 20x ROI. And as you heard today, 5 of our early stage companies are currently actively raising another $5.75 million to support the scaling of their businesses. And of course, they're always looking for more new customers. So please follow up with them in the breakout rooms if you can refer any potential customers or investors. And if you missed our first 2 showcase events, you may not be aware that just 3 weeks ago, the CEC held their 6th annual EPIC Symposium, where they conducted a pitch competition featuring 13 of the best startups from across the state. And I'm proud to report that our SCEIN companies won 4 of the 5 first annual California Energy Visionary Awards. And it should be no surprise that Nuvve actually won 2 of them. So if you like what you saw and heard today, there is plenty more of this activity going on across the state that you can tap into. And to gain access to the statewide California energy startup ecosystem, then the platform to join is the CEC's Empower Innovation Network. There are already 1,700 members from over 500 organizations signed up there. They provide a statewide events calendar where I assume some of you found out about this event. There's a funding opportunities tab that currently lists over $2 billion in open grants and RFPs. And there's also a Find a Partner tab if you're looking for somebody to collaborate with in pursuing these grants. So you can sign up at empowerinnovation.net. In closing, I'd like to thank all of you who attended today's showcase and perhaps or both of our previous showcase events. We're delighted to have this opportunity to share the exciting clean tech innovations that 17 of our member companies are bringing to market, and that's just half of the companies that we're working with at the current time. And I think you can see why we're just so bullish in supporting the green economy to drive our country's next wave of prosperity for all Americans. So now please do visit with our presenters in their breakout rooms. If you have any follow-up questions about the SCEIN for either Zach or me, you're welcome to stay right here at the main stage or contact us using the email addresses that we've provided. So thanks so much for joining us today, and we wish you a very happy and healthy holiday season. And if you stay tuned right now, Zach's going to tell everybody how you can access the breakout rooms.